Okay, let's try this again. One of the most recent traumas that has been surfaced in my life was last night. I joined a friend to a pole dancing open house for support. She's been trying to do things that challenge herself to get out of her box and be more confident and get rid of anxiety and stuff like that. And so I joined her with another friend. Rainier, you can sit up here if you want to, but you have to be quiet, okay? While I'm trying to talk. God. I think I'm just gonna let him outside. He's not gonna let me talk today. I mean, he wants to talk today. Let's just put it that way. Come on, let's go. Come on. Go play. Okay. I'm not gonna start this video over. I'm gonna get my thoughts out of my mind. Okay, let me just get comfortable again. Okay, so I joined my friend. And let's just say I didn't really want to go, but I wanted to support her. So I went, and immediately upon arrival, the vibe was just way too similar, okay, to something I have experienced plenty of times before. It was way too familiar. It was really dark. There was really loud music. It looked and smelled like a strip club. Let's just put it that way. And if you don't know, you're gonna know now. I used to be a stripper, okay? From 18 to 28, so 10 years of my life, I worked for Deja Vu in Washington and California, mostly. I worked a little bit in Kansas City. I tried Oregon. That's pretty much it. And I was determined to not go to Vegas like all my other friends were going because I didn't want it to be a long-term thing. So while being at this pole dancing place, they were the only women. Men weren't allowed. And they had some different stages or levels of women expressing themselves on the pole. And honestly, because I was a stripper, they were just all doing strip club moves, right? And when I was a dancer, I never called myself a stripper. I called myself a dancer. It's like a way to just kind of like destigmatize it, I guess. It wasn't cool, okay? Let's just say it wasn't cool to be a dancer when I was a dancer, okay? I was 18 years old, and it was like 1998, 97, 98. So it wasn't cool to be a stripper back then. And it wasn't something that you told everybody because there was a lot of judgment. And it was nobody's business, right? It was super underground. And it was way different than it is now. And pole dancing classes weren't a thing. You learned that when there was no customers and it was slow and you just tried a couple pole tricks. Like you just tried to do what you could do when you had time to do it or ask someone how they're doing that. And there were no names for any of the tricks. You just would say, hey, show me how you do that. Or you would try to make up your own tricks, right? Deja Vu did have like the pole dancing competitions yearly, and we would attend those I was never really that big on doing pole tricks because I made money anyways without them, and I didn't have to do them. Other girls, that's all they did was pole tricks, and they made money because they did pole tricks. Like, it didn't really matter. When I did start getting into experimenting with doing more pole tricks, shortly after that I was pregnant, right? And then I was 21 and pregnant at the strip club. And I worked till I was about 6 months pregnant. So in those 10 years that I was dancing on and off, I took it seriously, like a job, right? I was there 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, wearing stilettos, dancing all night and working. I didn't make a lot of money in the beginning because I didn't know what I was doing. But luckily for me, there were a lot of older women there that kind of taught me what to do and what not to do. And so then I learned to make money while still respecting myself and not putting up with some shit. It doesn't mean I didn't put up with shit. I definitely experienced a lot of traumatic situations, or situations where I felt like I really had to stick up for myself, or times where I felt like I was being taken advantage of by customers, by managers, and then also constantly defending myself against other women. And if you've ever been a dancer, it's like fucking high school. Every time you go to a new club, even if you're not new, you're considered the new girl, and you got to deal with a lot of shit. And if you make money, there's a lot of haters, there's a lot of jealousy, and then there's also a lot of rumors as to how you're making the money, right? So there's a lot of bullshit that you put up with when you work in the clubs, and it comes from everywhere. And then when you leave the club, you have to worry about being followed to your car or followed home. And anyone that you tell outside of the strip club that you're a dancer, you got to feel that negative energy too. So it's just a lot of negative energy, or at least it was for me and a lot of other people I worked with. I don't know what it's like now because I don't go there anymore. Okay, I'm gonna be 45 soon, and I stopped working when I was 28. So it's been a really long time since I've even stepped foot in a club. So going to that place last night was like stepping into the club again. But it was like being in a alternate reality, because doing these tricks and these moves was like kind of praised, and women were expressing themselves, I guess, to feel confident and comfortable by doing strip club moves, which was weird to me to kind of piece that together, because those were obviously club moves, and when you work at a club and then you go to a different club, you can tell which girls work at Deja Vu and which ones don't, because it's like a culture, right? Like, a lot of girls that work with that club do that move, and then other clubs, they do other moves. It's like you can pinpoint, and they do certain spins and flips and things with their legs that other club people don't do, So while I was watching, I was just kind of in shock that this was something that people were paying to learn how to do instead of getting paid to do. But also, there were people crying because they felt so empowered and they thought it was so beautiful. And I guess I kind of felt bad for these women that felt like they had to go there to feel good about themselves. Like, I mean, yeah, it is empowering to be on stage and to dance and to have a lot of people just like mesmerized by you. And it's great to get the compliments and all that. But this was weird. And it brought up a lot of mixed feelings for me. And I realized that maybe that experience working in the industry has definitely brought a lot of trauma into my life that I just suppressed, because when I was dancing, I was not in the best, healthiest relationship. And honestly, I didn't know anyone at the club that was. A lot of women that I worked with were in really controlling, negative relationships, and including me. And sometimes going to the club was my escape from home. It was my way to get out of this argument, get out of this negative situation. Or sometimes my ex at that time would just start shit with me, like before work. And so I would be crying before work. And then when I would get there, I would wipe those tears away, put on that mask, and go make some money. Because he didn't have a fucking job. I was working. And in a lot of cases, a lot of these women are taking care of their families. They're fucking having kids, taking care of their families, taking care of their men. And rarely do these women have supportive men in their lives. Sometimes there would be like a woman that fell in love with a customer and then went and married them and lived a pretty wealthy life. But those were also controlling situations, because I've had friends that, you know, ended up dating their customers, and then suddenly that husband or man of theirs is like trying to control everything they do, and then trying to make them stop dancing so they can control them. But then as soon as they stop dancing and they're no longer, I guess, in control of their own lives, they would leave them. And then I would see that same man, after they break up, in the club trying to hit on me or someone else, because they're on to, like, to the next girl. And so there are a bunch of customers that are just like serial stripper daters, you know, like all they do is date girls at the club. And then there are those other douches that just hang out at the club because they want to say that they have stripper friends at the club, because a lot of dancers are just really kind-hearted people. They're giving and they're kind-hearted, so they're always helping. And so these freeloaders are just hanging out because the girls are like buying them drinks and lunch and dinner and like everything, you know. It's like because they're there all the time. And also, I mean, come on, they become our food runners, okay? We give them money to go get us some food or tampons or whatever, right? So it becomes like a weird dynamic where you're like, okay, this person's gonna be here, I might as well ask if he can go get me something from the store. Anyways, so a lot of mixed emotions came up from that experience last night, and I haven't talked about it in a while, and I definitely haven't talked about it publicly, but because that was like 10 years of my life, there's a lot of that experience that was not very healthy. It's not very good. And then some of it was kind of empowering and kind of, I guess, gave me the confidence that I have now, because I wasn't super confident before that, and then I learned to just not give a fuck. But I also learned how to listen to my intuition, and being around so many sketchy people all the time really heightens your intuition. And I don't know if that was just me kind of working through an extension of my fight or flight mode from childhood, but I was definitely on high alert all the time, and I knew who to stay away from and who I could trust, and it really heightened my intuition. And I met a lot of people from all over the world, which was kind of cool, but also kind of sad, you know, because they're from all over the world and they're going to a strip club, you know. So I left last night just feeling really confused about the whole experience. I definitely don't want to do pole dancing. I don't see the point in my life to do that just for fun. especially when I barely did it, when I had the chance to do it for free to make money out of it. I just feel like it's really weird now that those things are acceptable. When I was doing them, they weren't. But the world is changing. Everything's becoming different. I accept that. I acknowledge that. But it's weird. It's still weird. So I'm going to work through those feelings. And I'm going to work through letting go of that past trauma somehow. I don't know how. We'll see.